Tell Us About Yourself is sponsored by bonusround.ca, streaming Canada's classic game shows on demand. Dive into the golden age of television with thousands of episodes of Canadian series that defined an era from anywhere in the world, all for just $1.99 a month. From iconic shows like Let's Make a Deal and Definition to cult classics like Bumper Stumpers and The Mad Dash, bonusround.ca brings you timeless entertainment that's fun, enlightening, and affordable. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, relive the magic of Canadian television history. Subscribe now at bonusround.ca for $1.99, download the free Bonus Round app on iOS, Android, and Roku, and turn every night into Game Show Night. By Game Show Forensics. In a world where game show imperfections go unchecked, where judgment calls are questionable, and where clocks tick with unsynced inaccuracy, there is but one elite force to investigate it all. Armed with the latest in atomic electromagnetometer and gas chromatography mass spectrometry technology, Game Show Forensics is always on the case. Join Robert McKee and his elite squad of game show scientists as they dive headfirst into the most absurd depths possible at GameShowForensics.com. Adult discretion is advised. And by The Inn at Leola Village. Nestled in the heart of picturesque Pennsylvania, the Inn at Leola Village is a sanctuary of luxury and relaxation. Indulge in the timeless beauty of their historic suites, each meticulously designed to transport you to a bygone era of elegance and grace. Experience the culinary delights of their award-winning Italian restaurant, where every dish is a masterpiece crafted from the finest local ingredients. From romantic getaways to corporate retreats, the Inn at Leola Village offers a haven for every occasion. Unwind at the spa, stroll through the lush gardens, and let the stress of everyday life melt away. Make your reservation today at theinnatleolavillage.com or call the front desk at area code 717-656-7002. The Inn at Leola Village, an oasis of luxury. Tell Us About Yourself. Conversations with Game Show Contestants is produced in partnership with the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, one of the largest history museums in the United States, and one of the leading museums serving families with highly interactive exhibits and programs. Since 1968, the Strong Museum has been dedicated to exploring the ways in which play encourages learning, creativity, and discovery, and how it illuminates cultural history. And their National Archives of Game Show History. Founded by industry veterans Bob Bowden and Howard Blumenthal, the archive is home to thousands of artifacts representing over 80 years of broadcasting, including props, set designs, video interviews with game show professionals, and other iconic elements from the history of television at play. For more information about the National Archives of Game Show History or the Strong National Museum of Play, visit museumofplay.org or call area code 585-263-2700.
Blue 35.
Tell us about yourself, would you?
Tell us something about you.
For any new viewers, why don't you tell us again about yourself?
We've met before, but let's meet again. Tell us about
What
yourself.
else can you tell us about yourself?
Perhaps you'd fill us in again and tell us about yourself.
My name is Chuck Kraus from St. Louis, Missouri, and I am a transportation supervisor.
What does that do?
So what I do, I work for a large like fuel convenience company, and we deliver 24/7, 365. Well, not really 24/7, but we deliver every day. So kind of the supervisor over the truck drivers and the driver assistants.
You know what I love about game show fans? We are all so good at describing our jobs.
We go into detail, don't we?
We sure do. We go into detail without letting you know the name of the company.
Yes.
I'm a front desk manager at a beautiful at a beautiful historic hotel. We
But where? Well, I can't tell you that. Oh,
That's
okay.
right. Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. Chuck, I always start by trying to find out what game shows mean to the person that I'm talking to. They meant everything to me. What did they mean to you?
Yeah, so game shows really opened up a new community to me. They Game shows are a way to express yourself. I know a lot of people who were kind of recluses. They were quiet people, and after they went on a game show, they just opened up and they're living completely different lives. So game shows to me are really it really opened up a new community, a new view on the world. So many things happened since I was on my first game show in 2015 to where I am now.
And so, what era of game shows? Tell me about the era of game shows that you grew up watching. I know that some of us, like me, like I was born in the late 80s. So I was born after Press Your Luck premiered originally. It was still on in reruns, but I would consider myself to be a product of like the 80s game show, 70s and 80s because of what I had access to. What was true for you? What era of shows informed this love of game shows for you?
Yeah, so truthfully, a lot of the folks that you talk to and a lot of the people that I talk to in the game show community, they've been watching since, like the 50s, watching Groucho Marx on You Bet Your Life and doing that. Admittedly, mine really started being home sick from school and watching Price is Right, the Bob Barker era. I was born in 85. So in the, 90s and 2000s is when I was home from school watching Bob Barker on The Price is Right. But, with the creation of, cable and game show network, like all of these different eras are available to all of us now. So, I know my mom really liked the 70s eras, Match Game, that type of thing. And with Game Show Network and all that, I've started watching all of that. But my true, um, you know, introduction to game shows really was during the Bob Barker era of Price is Right.
We're really fortunate to be living in that era where we're getting so many reruns of so many shows from so many different periods in TV history. And I think I would probably pinpoint it like with the advent of Game Show Network and like the USA reruns to a certain degree, but you create this like this generation of super fans, you know what I mean, that are
Oh,
raised by
yeah.
so much of this material. Whereas a kid in the 70s who liked this kind of thing liked what was on and maybe had a distant memory of something, years ago or something, maybe his or her parents told them about. But like, it's almost like being a music fan these days. There's access to so much
So
that,
much.
you almost become like a new flavor of enthusiast for this kind of thing.
Yeah, and what's really cool, nowadays there's things you can and can't say and can and can't do, and you go back and you watch these 70s and 80s eras game shows, and my jaw is dropping at some of the things that are said and the way people act. It was such a different time, and it's really cool to see how it was back then, and how everything is shifted to where it is now. But it was just so different from, the 70s, the 80s to where game shows are now. The ones back then to me were like, that's where game shows, um, that's where they thrived. There would be no, The Wall or Beat Shazam or newer game shows today if it weren't for the ones that we grew up watching.
For sure. And talking about, identifying periods based on the show and talking about, what TV used to get away with and what it used to be. I feel like Match Game and The Price is Right are the two perfect examples of that. Because you could look at an episode of The Price is Right from any year, and I think
Lived.
even like a casual viewer can look at the fashion, look at the prizes, think about the prices, and identify when it's from. Match Game to a certain degree too. A lot of people talk about, the jokes and stuff that you couldn't say back then. They said a lot of stuff, and they were clever and witty and kind of double entendre about it, which I think takes even more intelligence than just making the joke today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what I think is cool, up until recent, but what I thought was cool, especially Price is Right, is how true to keeping like the set and the decorations and the lighting, keeping it true to like old school, like, it looked old school for a long time, and that was cool to see, like, you would turn on the TV and it's 2001, but it looks like it's still in 1975, and I thought that was really, really cool to see. Of course, it's cool to see, the new lighting and the new set and everything. That's always really neat to see. Bright colors are always great, but, when it was back, when it was the pastel and the bulb lighting, I thought that was cool, being in the 2000s, but still the game show aspect, it looked like it was still back in the day.
Sure. Right. We watched at the tail end of that era where the people for whom that change would be relevant were still
Mm.
watching the show. I got asked once if I ever thought that the set of The Price is Right stayed the same for too long. That, even in 2007, like we're not in eight or 2006 rather, we're not in HD yet. There's a lot of, mechanical props and things that have since
Mhm.
been digitized and modernized. Um, and I don't know. I think that it would have had to change at some point because
Right.
the age of the people who care that it looks the same as it did in 1984 are kind of aging out of that key demo.
Yeah, they are, and even if for a show like Wheel of Fortune, they always made smaller updates. When they updated the puzzle board and stuff, but really until recently with the Ryan Seacrest takeover, like it stayed generally the same, with the exception of like smaller details that they would switch up. But now it's completely, it looks like a spaceship or something. Like it's like whoa, like the set is considerably different.
Oh, sure. And I think we're in this era of producers who grew up in an era where reboots were never really comparable to the original. I mean,
Yeah.
I think about like when we had Card Sharks in the early 2000s and we had Match Game and we had um, you know, eh, Freezer Crowd, any number of shows that tried to reboot an original concept. Uh, they grew up seeing how bad those were. And so we are in this era where I think a lot of producers and designers are designing game shows that look modern enough and still have a little bit of a callback to the original.
Yeah, absolutely. And with reboots and stuff, it's unfortunate because, we hear about a reboot and we're like, "Oh, I love the original so much. This is gonna be great." And then when it doesn't live up to the original, you were so let down because we loved that original show so much.
Well, that's true, but you know what? I feel like what happens more often today is the opposite. A network will announce that they're rebooting. I'm going to use To Tell the Truth as an example because I remember this. I remember experiencing this. ABC announced they were rebooting To Tell the Truth. I think it was 2017, whatever, recent.
Yeah.
And what happened is similar to what happens a lot of the time now when a show gets rebooted. The fans online complain and say, "Oh, it's not going to be as good as the original. Let's see how
Yeah.
they mess it up." They'll bring up the memory of whatever the last failed attempt to reboot the show was, and then the show airs, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's not bad. They did a good job. Look at that. That's really cool." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I feel like that's happening more often, but did they create a whole generation of skeptical game show fans? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. I mean, it's how long did it take Pyramid to catch on again, you know? I mean, until the Michael
Yeah.
Strahan one, there were so many different ones that tried and failed, and finally, with Michael, they hit a home run, I thought.
It's interesting that even the bad game shows tend to stay in the kind of recent memory of pop culture. I think the Pyramid with Donny Osmond is a good example of that, where the
Mhm.
show, like you said, didn't really take off in any measurable way. It
Right.
didn't revitalize any genre. It didn't make Pyramid cool again the way the current one does. But Donny Osmond hosting that show is just still in the back of a lot of people's minds. I feel like he's still sort of in that public consciousness, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, I guess if you talk to someone who's a little older than you and you mention pyramid, they might mention Donnie. Most people probably won't. For the
Yeah,
people that
sure.
didn't see it, but, yeah, for guys like us, like, it still pops in our head, and, there's certain, like, I keep wanting to say coloring. There's certain coloring that was on that show that anytime I see it, like, out in public or whatever, reminds me of the Donny Osmond era pyramid, like
Yeah, I
that.
know exactly what you're coloring is a perfect word for that because that's exactly what it is. Pyramid okay, Donnie, this is officially the most niche, obscure conversation I've ever had on this show. 2002 pyramid is black, silver, and purple.
That purple's what does it
The
for me.
purple, right? The early 2000s pyramid, it has, like, the color palette of, like, a rich pastor.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I've been to churches that look like the set of early 2000s pyramid.
It's almost like I feel like, Prince is gonna come walking out on the set, that it's that purple. It really is that
Yeah,
purple.
yeah,
Like,
and it's like it lends itself perfectly to, like, fog machines. There was some level of fog, I think, or but
a
I know
magician
exactly
comes out.
yeah, I know exactly. I think about, like, the last couple of years of The Price is Right with Bob Barker. To me, that's sherbet color. That's like a pastel blue and a pastel pink and a light
Yes.
purple and, like, a banana yellow.
It's those pastels, man.
Yeah.
It really does it. They did it right. It really triggers something in your mind.
Oh, for sure. And even the palettes that weren't pastel-y, I mean, early night. What color is the early 90s Price is Right?
Well, I mean, I think you could go a couple different ways there, I mean, we're talking about specifically purple for the pyramid, but early '90s Price is Right, I'm thinking, like, red is a
Yeah.
red, you
Yeah,
know?
like red and gold and everything kinda centered around that.
Yes.
Ah, that's fascinating.
It's crazy what a color can do to you, you
Oh,
know?
yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, but that's I mean, that's good set design is what that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Chuck, your game show journey, the beginning of it is relatively recent compared to a lot of guests that I've talked to. You became a contestant about a decade ago. Tell
Yeah.
me how that journey from fan to contestant manifested itself for you. What was the context?
Yeah, absolutely. So, growing up, my mom and dad always watched, Wheel of Fortune at 6:30. We're from St. Louis, so 6:30 PM every night, Wheel of Fortune was on. And my mom would be in the bedroom, in her master bedroom, and my dad and I would be out in the family room, and we would watch it, and typically, my mom would know the answers before my dad and I, and she would scream the answers to us from her room. And, that is my earliest memory of Wheel, and that's, I started watching as a kid, growing up. Well, that just ended up being into my adulthood, 6:30, Wheel of Fortune's on at 6:30 PM. The local news at 6, followed by Wheel of Fortune every day. And, it became in 14, 15, I didn't really ever you never really think like, "Oh, I could be on that." It was just like, "Oh, man, that would be fun if I could be on that." It was never, "Oh, I think I can do this." Well, finally, it got to, "I think I might be able to do this." So, I researched, with the internet coming up and everything, I researched, how to get on and, sent in a video, it's a short, 2-minute video. "Here's who I am, here's what I do," and, a couple days later, they sent me an email back and said, "We love your video. Perfect timing because we're going to be doing an in-person audition in Springfield, Illinois." It was in like 2 weeks. "Can you come to that? It's invitation only." Well, Springfield, Illinois is about an hour and a half, 2 hours from St. Louis. So I was like, absolutely. I didn't expect to hear anything back. It's Wheel of Fortune.
Sure.
So
And just on the strength of that video is how they called you.
just on it. Yeah, it was the video. They said, "We love your personality. You're outgoing. Come in person." I was like, "All right, like I'm in."
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. One of the aspects of the contestant process that I've become fascinated with is the video interview, the video audition. When I got on Millionaire, it was the only season for which they did video auditions, and that's how I
Wow.
got on because I had tried out a bunch of times beforehand. But I'm just fascinated by it. Um, Tell me about the strategy, if there was any strategy regarding how you were going to attack this video. How did you do it? What did you think to say about yourself?
Yeah, so I knew it was all about personality. If you can show your personality, if you can talk to essentially yourself on camera, then you can talk to people. And that's kind of what I prided myself on. For 11 years, I was a police officer. From 2010 to 2021, I was a police officer. So talking to people came came normal to me. That's what I did. I liked being out in the public, and that's what I did for work.
Sure.
So I knew if I could, get on video and make it exciting or make them interested from that I could do it in person. So, attacking the video is just talking about yourself. Who are you? You don't want to ramble on about something and hit on one thing and just keep talking about it. They just want to know who you are, where you're from, why would you be good on the show, and do it like you're just having a conversation, like you and I are right now. Just have a conversation, but don't be boring, right? Don't just sit there and, "Hi, I am Chuck. I'm from Sa—" like, no, you wanna be exciting, you wanna be, interesting to them, and I always kinda joked, like, they always love the first responders, teachers, doctors, so I really, think the police officer thing kinda stood out to them as well, so that I think did nothing but help me. So yeah, so that's kind of what it was. It was just a short minute and a half, 2-minute video. Here's excuse me, here's who I am. Here's where I'm from. Here's why I would be good on the show. I'm outgoing. I like to have fun. I've been watching it forever. Everyone says they watch it forever, but that's just kind of how I attacked it and seemed to work.
Did you do the video in uniform?
I didn't. I did not do it in uniform. I just did it family room on my couch, good lighting. That's one thing they want, good lighting and good audio. As long as you
Sure.
have that and can talk, you should be good to go.
Would that have been a violation of anything on the professional side of things if you had worn your uniform for that video?
No, because in a later game show I was on, NHL Hat Trick Trivia, I actually did that in uniform. So it's department based. If they say you can do it, you can do it. If they don't want you to do it, then you don't do it. But
Got it, okay.
yeah, it was no type of violation. And I just figured, it's an audition video. I didn't think to put on the uniform for that.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm asking out of complete curiosity. I remember watching The Price is Right when I was little, and it always seemed like if you were in uniform on that show, you won. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you were not, if you were any, and it's a terrible reason to enlist for sure, but if you're in the military or you do something where where you're in uniform, if you had showed up to The Price is Right back then, you were a shoe-in. And I
Oh
found
yeah.
out later it's because Barker had like ultra conservative political views and just loved seeing people in uniform.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay.
so you did your video and they called you. Wheel of Fortune called you to audition in person.
Yeah. So also in the email, they said, we're also looking for teams. Do you have a grandparent, a parent, a sibling? Well, it's just my sister and I. We don't have any other siblings. It's, my mom, my dad, me, and my sister. So I called up my sister and I said, "Hey, what are you doing on June 25th?" Like, I remember these dates. "What are you doing on June 25th?" And she's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "I got called to audition for Wheel of Fortune. They're looking for teams. Do you want to come with me?" And she's like, first she was like, "What?" But then she was like, "Oh my god, absolutely, I'll come." So my sister and I drove to Springfield, Illinois for the in-person audition, and it was at a ballroom in the Abraham, I think it was the Abraham Lincoln Hotel or something like that in downtown Springfield, Illinois. And from listening to your podcast, you've heard the story before. I mean, they bring in about 200 people and you audition in person and they tell you, be energetic, be just like you were on the show. For all intents and purposes, you guys are on the show right now. Wow us. And that's
And is that
exactly
something, yeah, is that something that came easy for you? I know as a police officer, there's a certain demeanor that you uphold in your day to day. How much trouble, if any, did you have amplifying your personality to that degree?
yeah. So usually, and I think that was the thing that with an outgoing personality and being the police officer, it was different because usually, police officers are reserved, they're quieter, they're real serious, and I am not that. Um, Going back a little bit, like out of high school in my early to mid 20s before going into the police force, I was in a rock band that signed a record deal to a label and traveled the country. We toured the country playing music for 5 years. So being on stage and under lights and that type of thing, performing was in my blood. I I had been doing it for the past however many years. So
Wait a second. Wow, that's an incredible combination of professional experiences. That's like
yes,
that's like if you were to build like the Terminator of game show contestants, that you would give them
yeah,
experience in front of an audience on stage performing, and also give him a decade of law enforcement. Get a little hair on his chest.
right, exactly. So yeah,
Wow.
it was funny because my band members, the band broke up, and I had real long blonde hair and was like down to my shoulders. I cut off all my hair and joined the police academy, and they were like, "What in the world are you doing? Like, where did this come from?" But it had all worked out. But yeah, so I did the band thing, and then police and game show stuff. So performing and turning it on for Wheel of Fortune's audition, it was not a problem.
How much of a Wheel of Fortune fan were you? I've talked to so many fans of the show, and they range from enthusiastic to Eugene. So I wonder where on that spectrum you might put yourself.
So I'm nowhere near Eugene. I will say that off the bat.
That's good to know.
But, I was always a fan. I always watched it. I was nowhere near like, Eugene and Alex Braun and Robert Santoli. Like these guys, man, they absolutely loved the show. It was their religion. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
that then again, 6:30 on the dot on the weekdays in St. Louis. Like I was always watching it, and I have fond memories of being little, watching it with my parents. So always a fan, always watched it. Was never near, like where I am now with, game show fandom or where those other guys are in game show fandom. So I would say moderate, a moderate fan, probably a little more than the normal person, but nothing near these other guys.
To what degree did the possibility of winning a lot of money influence your decision to see that casting process through for Wheel of Fortune? How focused were you on financially what could happen to you?
You know what, Christian? Zero. I just thought it would be so cool to get on the show. And
Sure.
it wasn't until we got on and my sister and I were talking, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be awesome to win, X amount of money?" And I was like, "Oh yeah. Yeah, we could possibly win money on this, couldn't we?" It really was truly just it was for fun to get on Wheel of Fortune. I thought would be awesome. I'd been watching it for so long, and to be able to get on the show would just be really cool and a lot of fun. And then secondary thought was, "Oh wow, we could win money." So financially, I mean, that was not, in the wheelhouse at all. No reasoning to go for being on the show.
Yeah, sure. Well, you're not alone in that. I feel like the most passionate fans of game shows don't prioritize that part of it, and it's a very real part. I mean, you and I have been on TV shows
Well,
whereby theoretically we could walk away with $1 million. We were
yeah.
both in that position, um, but it doesn't really compute. I talk a lot on these episodes about how the journey to the show is the destination itself. It is the prize because of all the competition you have to defeat in order to get to that point where you're on the set.
Yeah.
So you're not alone in that at all. That's a very common opinion, I think, among a lot of people who have been on the show.
Yeah, because I mean, there's nobody ever that I've talked to, and I think I could speak for you as well, that says, "You know what? I'm really behind on my bills. I lost my job. I'm gonna go on a game show." Like that. I don't think that's ever been anyone's thought because, as you know, the casting process is months long. You don't know if you're gonna win any money. It's not a financial financial thought isn't the first thought. It's always this would be cool.
Right. You're absolutely right. Excuse me. I had a conversation a couple years ago with a woman named LaRue Stanley. She was on a show called Now You See It in the 80s, and she had done a lot of pilots and run throughs, and she would play the role of a contestant for demos for game show producers, and she
Mhm.
was like a bit of an actor. What would you call it? I guess sort of a character actor on TV and commercials and stuff.
Yeah.
And she had fallen on hard times at one point, and I asked her, when you're feeling at your lowest, do you ever consider this game show experience to be something that you could fall back on. If push came to shove, could you figure out where the next audition is and kind of get really sharp at the game and pursue that? Like, how confident were you, in those skills? And she said the
Sure.
same thing, just it never came to mind. Game shows are not a thing to, hang your hat on in that way.
Right. I mean, you never know. I mean, I know we'll get there, but when my sister and I were on, we split $5,800. I think 5,850 was the final. And then I get on Pyramid a year later and I win 50 grand. And my sister says, "Where's my half?" So you never know
Sure.
what you're going to win or how you're going to win it, or, you never know.
All you can do is try your best.
Absolutely. That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. Stepping on the set of Wheel of Fortune, because you made it as a contestant, otherwise you wouldn't be here. You got the call to be a contestant on the show. Tell me what that experience was like being on the set of a show that you've only seen through a TV screen for however many years.
Absolutely. So, ours was different in a great way because, we were on Sears Secret Santa Family Week. So, it was September 10th is when we filmed our episode, and before we even went on the wheel, stage, we did all of our paperwork, our legal paperwork, our hair and makeup on the Jeopardy set. So they brought us in and they sat us in the studio audience seats for Jeopardy, and it wasn't until you sat down and looked forward that I realized, "Oh my gosh, we're on the set of Jeopardy!" Because it was kinda low, dimly lit. It wasn't lit up. The podiums were covered with, tarps and stuff because, Jeopardy wasn't filming that week, obviously, because Wheel was, but we were on the set of Jeopardy. So the first experience we get is, "Oh my gosh, I'm here for Wheel of Fortune, but here I am on the set of Jeopardy." So that was super cool because we were in there for quite a few hours, like I said, doing all of our paperwork and picking, numbers out of a bucket to see what show we're gonna be on. And,
Right.
we were there on Jeopardy, so that was really cool.
That is cool. That's a very surreal part of this whole thing. It's happened to me a few times. I auditioned for Million Dollar Password back in 2008, 9, 2008 maybe. I think it was '08. But I auditioned with now one of my best friends in the world, Bob Haig. We auditioned on the set of The People's Court
Oh, wow.
because it just happened to be in the same building.
And then Christian, this was the coolest part. They walk us over and we walk around this corner onto the set of Wheel. And mind you, it was just August, okay? It's the first week of September. It's 100 degrees outside, and we walk on the set of Wheel, and it was decorated like a winter wonderland. Fake snow, candy canes, sleighs, the red and green. I mean, it was decorated like a winter wonderland because our episode was gonna be aired in December for the Sears Secret Santa Family Week. So,
Weird. Does that shock your system to any degree?
oh, so much. Not only are we under all the bright lights of, the show in itself, but it's the first we're barely out of August and we're walking onto a Christmas decorated set. So it was really, really cool. And I didn't even think about it when they said we were on Sears Secret Santa Family Week. I didn't even think about what the set was gonna look like. So much is going on. I was just excited to get on the show. But when we turned that corner and saw not only the wheel, but the way it was decorated, it was a sensory overload.
I bet it was. I bet it was. And not to mention, again, just being on the set of Wheel of Fortune, because that of all the game shows that people aspire to be on, I think Price is Right is in this category as well. There is rare, and maybe Jeopardy to a certain degree with the signaling device, but there's rarely such a striking physical element of the experience that I think people aspire to. People want to get on Wheel of Fortune and spin the wheel. They want to do the same thing on The Price is Right. I mean, just being able to reach out your arm and there it is, the set piece that, you've been watching forever. Um, Even that alone is hard to, I can
Yeah.
imagine can be hard to overcome.
It was just so surreal. I mean, all of us. I mean, if you could have had a camera on everybody's faces, all the contestants' faces when we turned that corner, I mean, everyone was just, their jaws were dropped. They were smiling. It was just, the glisten in their eye, was just huge because everyone was just so excited, that they were actually on that set.
How'd you do?
So, oh boy. So we came in third. We split $5,850. So we still went home with some money. We did solve a puzzle, games, gadgets, and gear. We got to solve a puzzle, so that was great. But I don't even want to say claim to fame because this is horrible, but my sister and I talked beforehand, if this happens, are we going to do this or that? We kind of had things planned out. Well, one of those plans that went horribly wrong was if we landed on the express wedge, are we going to jump on? We're like, we're on a game show. Like, yeah, if you get on that express wedge, you're going to jump on it and, we're going to call letters until we go bankrupt. So,
right. And just for anyone who's not immediately familiar with the express wedge, yes, like you just said. So is it $1,000 a letter? If you land on the space, you get to just keep calling letters at $1,000 a letter. If you get one wrong, you lose what you earned during the express round, right?
correct. And then you go bankrupt.
Okay. Oh, you lose
So-
everything, not just
You-
what you got.
Yeah.
It. Okay. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
so you go
that's a
bankrupt.
risk. And so your strategy was to take it.
Jump on because it was
Yeah.
the prize puzzle. They do that during the prize puzzle. So if you solve the puzzle, you get whatever trip is in that is for the prize puzzle, and they don't tell you till afterwards.
Oh yeah, and then the value of the prize puzzle trip gets banked, right? They add that to your
Bank-
score.
yep,
So if you
banked
win
into
the
your
prize
total.
puzzle, that's the game. Unless somebody absolutely demolishes you.
Exactly. I mean, if you get on that express wedge and you solve it and you get the total of that prize, I mean, it's very hard to beat you. So to hit that express wedge is a huge deal. So here comes the prize puzzle. We're the first ones to spin, land right on the express wedge. And on the show, I say it out, we land on it, and I go, oh, already, because it was our first spin. There were I think there may have been one letter, but maybe no letters up on the board. And Pat goes, well, wait a minute. You gotta call a letter first. And my sister calls a letter that was up there. And then he goes, do you want to jump on the express wedge? And Christian, I mean, I could see it playing. I've watched this video over and over because it haunts me today.
Oh no.
I grab
One of
the
those.
I grab the podium and I take one step back and I kind of grind my teeth. I look down, I look over at my sister and she just looks at me. I look back at Pat and I go, I don't think so, Pat. And we didn't get on the express train. And
Okay. But I feel like in your initial strategy, maybe you didn't compensate for the fact that it may be the first thing you hit right out of the gate.
we didn't talk about that. No, we did not.
Yeah,
And
sure.
we didn't know like I said, it was a clean slate puzzle. We had no idea. So it could have been, on one hand, there are so many free letters up there that we could have called almost anything and it would have been up there. So it would have been who of us to jump on. But on the other hand, we had no idea what it was. So the first letter we called could have been wrong. So we went bankrupt anyway. So everyone always says, and I know from listening to the show and other podcasts, you always jump on the express train. You always do it. And I decided not to do it. And I still get crap about it today.
But I'll be honest with you, Chuck. I don't know that I would give you crap. I don't
Okay.
know that I would
I
wanna
like it.
give up control of the wheel first thing.
First thing. Yeah.
You have to throw something up there first. You have to have a track for the damn express train to roll on.
Well, and the only thing I can make myself feel okay about this with is we decided not to. So then we had to spin again. Okay. So we spun and my sister called a letter and the letter was not on the board. So if we would have jumped on anyway, and would she have said that same letter? I don't know. But our next spin, the letter wasn't on the board anyway. So that's the only thing I'm hanging my hat on, making that decision of not jumping on it.
I think to do that in the very beginning of a round is reckless.
Yeah.
Nobody, there aren't, and maybe Wheel of Fortune fans in general need to hear this. There are no bonus points for style or creativity on Wheel of Fortune.
Right.
It's not like Jeopardy where it's relatively safe to go for the meme. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? If you don't know
Sure.
Final Jeopardy, you know you're not going to win anyway. You can have some fun. They don't care about that on Wheel of Fortune. Just get the money and solve the puzzle. Like just do
Yes.
that.
Yes. So it ended up being an unforgettable trip was the prize puzzle or was the solve of the puzzle. I don't remember where they went, but
Right. Okay. Well, okay. So what if the puzzle was an unforgettable trip.
Yes.
Let's look at the letters in that puzzle, right? So if I'm playing Wheel of Fortune, the first thing I'm going to do, even if it's not the bonus round, R, S, T, L, and N. That's
Right.
what I'm going to throw up there to see if it hits. And in unforgettable trip, what do we have? We have N's, we have R's, and we have T's. But we have one N, two R's, and two T's.
Hey everyone, this is Christian Carrion. I'm editing the episode. I just realized there are actually two N's. There's an unforgettable trip. I forgot about the word an, A-N. Sorry. Thanks. Bye.
No, the odds aren't good enough. They're not good enough to do the express. I'm getting into this, man. The odds are not good enough to take
Maybe
the express first thing. No.
And knowing that it's a prize bubble, maybe with the R and T you could figure out trip, maybe. But like I said, like it was a clean board. So
well, and how do you get off the express anyway? Do you have to elect to quit, or do you get off when you solve?
You just keep going. You just keep on going.
So it ends when you either get a letter wrong or you solve and you get it right or wrong.
You don't. And consonants still cost, or I mean, vowels still cost money. So you want to call all the consonants, and if you can solve it without calling any vowels, you didn't have to spend any money.
Yeah.
So,
I'm on your side, Chuck. Let the record show. This is now in the Museum of Game Show History. I am on Chuck Kraus's side.
And you're the first one, so I really appreciate that.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wait, maybe I'm wrong.
Everyone says you should have gotten on. I'm like,
I don't know. I'm with you. Anyway, 5850. What'd you do with it? That's fun money.
Yeah, that was. I mean, 5850. We, with tax and stuff, each got a little over $2,000. What I do with it? Nothing really. Put it in my bank account and just kind of lived my normal life.
Good for you.
$2,000. You don't. There's nothing you can really.
Yeah.
You're ahead on bills for a month. I mean, it was.
Yeah, it's fun money. It's that's nice.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure. The experience of being on the show after the fact, watching the episode, who watched it with you? Did your department do a thing for you? How did that go?
Yeah, so my department didn't do a thing. They put out posts that I was going to be on and stuff, but we had a huge watch party. So my aunt and uncle Kevin and Jan used to own a restaurant here in St. Louis, and we had a huge watch party at the restaurant. They had a bunch of TVs on the walls. It was a family's like sports pub kind of place. So TVs were all over the walls. So all of our friends and family, the place was packed. Came out to watch it. Would have been better if we won the show with all these people that came out to watch it with us, but it was a lot of fun. Like I said, so many people. The local news stations came out and interviewed us at the restaurant during while we were watching the show. It was a lot of fun. We had it at our family's place, and like I said, all of our best friends and family were with us.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Proud of your appearance, proud of how you looked, proud of how you did.
You know what? We were on wheel. I mean,
yeah,
that could have never happened, but we were on wheel, and if people just thought it was cool, I thought it was cool, just getting on the show. Like I said, the whole express wedge thing, and we came out with a little bit of money, and that's all you can ask for when you get on a show like that.
You've had two big shows, Wheel of Fortune in 2015 and Pyramid just a couple years later. That's a nice 1-2 in terms of just the scope of the shows that you were on.
It was.
What significance, if any, did Pyramid hold for you? When you heard about it rebooting and you applied to be a contestant, was that a show that meant a lot to you growing up?
So this is and if I lied, the guys would call me out. So Wheel of Fortune gave me, I always say I got bit by the game show bug after being on set and being under those lights and going through the process. Like, I wanted to do every game show under the sun.
And what was it about the experience? Was it just the adrenaline of it?
It was the adrenaline. It was the, I really wasn't performing, but was kind of performing. We were doing something that we never thought you would do. The lights on, if someone listening to this has never been to a game show, even just to watch the lighting. I mean, the lighting is so impressive. The production, like, I've always been into like production and what happens behind the scenes, but the lighting and the cameras and all of it was so cool that I wanted to do more of it. It was just like a larger than life experience to me.
Sure.
So I wanted to do it again. And Pyramid put out that they were, I had watched season 1. So season 1 had already been out, which Eugene was on. And season 2, they said, hey, we're going to start opening up our contestant pool for season 2. So the same thing, Christian, put together, fill out their application. They ask some questions about you, make a video. And this one I did do in uniform in my patrol car. I do remember doing my audition video for Pyramid in my patrol car. And I remember that they contacted me right back, like really quickly, because on my application, I said I was on Wheel of Fortune in December of 16. And I was on Wheel of Fortune in December of 15. And they were like, hey, we're in December right now. Were you just on Wheel or were you on Wheel last year? And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you for catching that. I was on last year, not this year. And they said, okay, great. We're keeping your information. The first week of February, we're going to call you for an initial phone interview. And I thought, okay, great. Sure as heck, as they said, February 2nd, I get a phone call from casting from Pyramid to talk to me about being on the show. And much like, I want to say much unlike Wheel, it was way more in depth. We did phone interviews. I had to play the game on the phone. As you can imagine, that's how difficult that would be. And then we had to play, I think I did 3 different Skype interviews playing the game of Pyramid with casting, between February and April. What I want to say about the guys, I say the guys would know if I was lying, is I really didn't know how to play the game very well. I used my personality and like my outgoing spirit to kind of gain my way through the process.
Which is interesting to me, because I feel like, again, using your profession as context, communicating under pressure, I feel like, is a decent part of the job in terms of being law enforcement. So I would think that a policeman or somebody in a similar position might be good at a game like Pyramid, where you're communicating definitions and just getting somebody to say what you need them to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I say the guys, Eugene Bion, Alex Braun, Robert Santoli, and Kevin Slattery, those guys would do Zoom meetings with me, and we would play. They would write Pyramid games, and we would play at night so that I would get better at the game, because they knew I was in the process of getting on. Those guys were the only ones that knew, and they would get on. And I'm not kidding you, 2-3 times a week, we would jump on Zoom and we would play Pyramid so that I would get better at the game for casting. And if it weren't for those guys, Christian, I swear, if it weren't for those guys, I wouldn't have gotten on, because they used to joke, like, after my episode was done, they're like, you were so bad at the beginning. And I was like, I know I was, but if it wasn't for you guys, like, I wouldn't have gotten on and done as good as I did.
That's incredible. Do you have any of those practice sessions recorded by any chance?
I don't, but I'm sure Alex and Eugene do. And I would actually love, I haven't thought about that. I would actually love to see that, because like I said, at the beginning, I was not very good at the game. They really coached me and helped me out. It was incredible how much they helped me.
So what aspects in particular of your skill set for Pyramid needed improving?
Yeah, so I think really distinguishing main gameplay between the final round play, because in main game you can say anything except for the word. Essentially, if the word is computer, I mean, I can say I'm talking to you on this right now. You type on it. You can say anything except for that word, computer.
Sure, you can even move and gesture and stuff.
Absolutely,
you can do the typing thing for computer.
Yep, you can move your hands. You can do pretty much anything. When you get to that bonus round, that last pyramid puzzle, you're sitting on your hands, and you can't use very descriptive wording for the clues. For instance,
yeah, just a thing that fits the subject. Just things that fit the subject. Yep.
It was I think the one that's the funniest. It was what wine would say is is what was one of the categories. What wine would say? And I looked. My partner was Rachel Dratch. She was amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
And I said, I am what women drink to get drunk. And she goes, Pinot Grigio. And I'm shaking my head, yes. And she goes, wine. I'm like, yes, that was the key word. And you have to be descriptive in a different way in that bonus round.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes Pyramid one of the great, I think, word-based game shows, is that it's left brain and right brain. It rewards the use of both.
And Rachel's an amazing, amazing player. She's another reason why I did so well. The category was Queens, and I go Elizabeth, and she goes Queens. I'm like, okay, there. Like that's all I had to say.
That's awesome. Funny people are so smart, and smart people are so funny. And
Yes.
we're big SNL fans here, so I'm happy to hear Rachel.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
No, she was incredible.
Let's talk about the casting experience for Wheel of Fortune versus the casting experience for Pyramid, because I've talked to a few people who have done both shows in different eras, and the casting processes for both shows I've been led to believe are very different in how they feel. Wheel of Fortune, I've been led to believe, feels more familial than something like Pyramid. Was that true for you as well?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like I said, my process for Wheel, I made the video, and then we went and did that in-person audition. We did a couple puzzles, we introduced ourselves, but that was in person, right? This casting for Pyramid, like I said, I applied in December, and I didn't get notified that I was going to be on until the second week of April. So it was a lengthy process with, like I said, phone calls, 3 different Skype sessions. Not only that, they send you an 18-page background questionnaire so that they can do a background check on you to make sure you're not, a felon or somebody running from the law. They're not going. ABC doesn't want to put you on the air for that.
Sure. At least not on that show.
Yeah, at least not for that one. Right. Another shows we can talk about, but not that one.
Absolutely.
They want you to send them, they want you dressed in 5 different wardrobe pieces. They want to see you in different clothing options. So you send that to them. You send them where you're from and the airport you would fly out of, in quotes, if you were to make it on the show. I think when we got to that point, I think I knew I was going to be on. They asked me what airport I was flying out of. But yes, to your point, very different. Very more in depth. It almost, I don't want to say felt like you were being interrogated, but I mean, it was very in depth. And I remember the casting producer was like really coaching me. Come on, Chuck, you got this. You got, like, if I were to get stuck on a word or something, like you got this. Think about it. Very, very coaching and positive. But on the other hand, it was just a lot. It was very in depth.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, the ABC primetime shows, I feel like primetime is just so much different compared to any, any other, time of day. I feel like casting for Price is Right is different than like what they did for, because I remember my Match Game audition, that whole process being pretty deep as well. Like I remember the outfit choices and the photos, and I remember at one point, was this Match Game? I think it was. Did you have to open your mouth for a tooth check when you did your interview for Pyramid?
No, but I
Did you not?
I did not.
Okay. I definitely had a tooth check like a racehorse for Match Game.
Wow, they want to make sure when you smiled you had teeth?
They wanted to make sure I had all my damn teeth. Yep.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Interesting. I've never heard, all the people I've talked to, in this game show world, I've never heard that before.
That's my line, Chuck. That's incredible. Yeah, that I think definitely did, and that was one of the. I never had that before either, and I didn't think anything of it. Whatever, fine. Yeah, I got teeth. Here you go.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, I had nothing. I had nothing to hide, but that's funny. I heard years ago. I've talked to a couple people who worked on the original Family Feud with Richard Dawson.
Sure.
And what I've learned, one of the things I've learned is that Dawson had a mouth inspector on set that would go down the line and check the mouths of every female he was going to kiss to make sure they didn't have any communicable disease or cold sore or herpes or anything that he wouldn't want to come in contact with.
I read that today. Wow.
Isn't that incredible?
Yes. Yes, that is incredible.
One day there'll be a documentary about mouths in game
Yeah,
shows.
yeah. The Mouth of the West, the game show.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah. So it was the ABC auditions are definitely more intense, more in depth, I think is a good way to put it, like you said.
They are, and being as big as ABC, I mean, ABC's top of the top, right? So, like, I mean, I understand, but it was just, my first show was Wheel, and it was pretty easy going, and then I went into this. I was like, holy cow, it is a lot, which I was fine with, but looking back, it was definitely a lot.
Describe the feeling of sitting in the winner's circle. That is,
Oh my God,
hallowed ground.
So
Hallowed ground, however you say that in game.
Yeah, I mean, so first off, just getting on, like we talked about getting on set, when I sat down in the chair and after, they pat us with makeup, when the pyramid music started playing, the producer, you hear the producer on the overhead, 3, 2, 1, all right, cue music. When the music and started playing and the lights started shining and blinking, and I almost started crying because it was such an another sensory overload, and I had been through such a long interview process, as we just talked about, for this show. When the music and the lights started going, like, it just, like, hit me, and I almost started crying on set. I held it back, but it was just one of those just proud moments that I couldn't believe I was there, even though
I believe it. Emotional.
It was. It really was.
Absolutely.
And unless you, like, experience it, like, some people might look at me crooked, like, "What are you talking about, dude? You were just on a game show." But, like, it was one of those, life experiences that you never think you will experience, but I was. So,
Yeah.
just incredible. But yeah, so to the bonus round, couldn't believe it. I mean, the two celebrities was Richard Kind and Rachel Dratch. So I was with Richard Kind the first round, didn't do too well. Rachel and her partner made it to the final round, the first go around, and the second go around is when Rachel and I made it. But just sitting down and Michael comes over and talks to you and, "Hey man, how's it going? You're going to do great." Kind of chit chat with Rachel. Casting comes out like, "All right, this is what you've been working for." They're coaching you up, like, kind of talking about, like, "You remember 3 months ago when we were casting and, like, here you are." Like, they were just kind of, like humbling you, bringing it home for you right there. It was like, "Here you are. This is what you've practiced, and this is why we do all this casting. This is why we do it. You're here." And then, I sit on my hands and start, and it was just, you just go into autopilot. You don't know, yeah, obviously you don't know what's gonna come up on that pyramid. You don't know what the categories are gonna look like. You just go. And
this is a new feeling to you at this point in your game show career, because up until now, you've never been the focus of attention on the show. You didn't win Wheel of Fortune. So this is the first time, it's you against the house.
yes,
That's a
absolutely.
new feeling.
It was. It was another, I'm gonna say this word over and over, just so surreal.
Yeah.
And we went and, I mean, we flew by. I remember being on the last box, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th box, and I had, like, I don't know, like 27s or 30 seconds left or something like that. It was a lot of time, and I remember thinking, all these thoughts are going through your head, like, in a split second. But I remember I'm like, I was sitting there for 5 minutes thinking about this, but I remember looking and seeing the time, and was like, "Oh my gosh, I have so much time left." And I just was describing, and the last category was handwriting. It was like things with handwriting, and I was saying a letter, a note, and I kept repeating that to Rachel, a note, a letter, a letter, a note. I kept repeating myself. And what they say a lot in Pyramid is What's the money word? You have to find that money word. What's the money word? So I switched gears and I said a check signature. And she was like, handwriting, and that was the key word. And I won 50 grand right there. And it
Oh,
was
incredible.
It was Christian. I jumped up and it's on my YouTube. You can see like Rachel's face. I think she said, "Oh my God," like she mouthed, "Oh my God." And I grabbed her with one arm to hug her, and I was jumping up and down simultaneously as I was hugging her. You just can't believe it, because then the lights go off. 50 grand comes up on the screen above the pyramid that you were just in front of. I mean, it was just one of those feelings I'll never forget. It was incredible. Just absolutely incredible. You go through all of the casting and the practicing, and not to mention all of the help that Alex, Eugene, Robert, Kevin helped me with, like, and then I win 50 grand. It was just insane.
Oh, everyone must have been so happy for you. That's incredible.
They were the crowd that they had there, it's live studio audience. They were vocal and loud and screaming for me and jumping up and down. And it was, I got to tell a funny story because, when I mentioned the Queens round, even though Diana's not a queen, when Queens came up on the board and I was in the bonus round, it was, my dad, my sister, and Robert Santoli and Kevin Slattery. They were in the crowd. I got four. I could have four people, I think, and they were in the crowd. Well, when Queens came up, my dad audibly, he goes, "Diana." I didn't hear him, but the producers that were standing by the studio audience heard him, and my sister like hit him, and the producers turn around and they go, "Shh, shh, no," because if people are yelling out stuff from the audience, they have to start over.
No, of course. You can't do that.
So my dad was like, "Diana," like he said it out loud. I don't know if it was just like a Freudian slip or what, but he's trying to feed me answers. I didn't hear it, and I guess it wasn't loud enough to where they had to start over because we didn't start over. But yeah, after the fact, my sister told me that story that my dad was yelling out answers as I was in the bonus round.
Oh my God. He almost got you arrested.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
That's incredible.
Local cop gets arrested on ABC's $100,000 pyramid.
Yeah. I can see the headline now. Pyramid scheme.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Sorry. Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't.
$50,000 is a lot more than 5,850.
It's a lot more. Yes, it is.
How did that hit you?
I mean, it's you can't describe it, especially when everything's 1099. So they sent me a check. Like I opened up a check from ABC and it was for 50 grand. Like I had a check for 50 grand that came to me. And if I was an irresponsible person, I could have went and put it all on black and blown my money. But obviously I did not do that. But seeing that check for, 50 grand come through in the mail is like, holy cow, like this is real. This is really happening.
Yeah, that's big money. That's fantastic.
And I
mhm.
and I was gonna say, I know you're gonna ask, so what'd you do with the money?
I used to not ask it so often. I was talking to my wife over the break before I started up. I started recording in January for this season, and she said you should ask everybody what they did with the money. And I never really focus on it because you never know someone's circumstances. Anyway, what'd you do with the money?
Well, another funny story. So I filmed on May 1st. Okay.
Uh-huh.
On May 28th, I was getting married. So that same month I was getting married. But my show obviously wasn't going to air until August after my wedding. So to a regular person, they see me on the show in August when I had gotten married 3 months prior. So I brought my wedding band to the show, wore it, and in my bonus round, Michael asked me, "Chuck, if you won the money, what would you do?" And I said, "Well, I just got married. It was an expensive wedding. It would be nice to start off, a new life with my wife with a nice chunk of money." Well, when I was saying that, I wasn't even married yet.
So the show aired after you had gotten married, so you like retconned it.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
And casting even
Wait a second, was that your idea or theirs?
mine.
That
Casting
is
came up to me.
clever.
They came up to me and said, that was a great idea. We didn't even think about that because, you have to tell them everything about you. So
Of course.
they said, we didn't even think about that. That was so smart. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So when it aired in August, yeah, I was married but in reality, I filmed before my wedding. So I was just, preempting the marriage.
That is incredible forethought.
And speaking of wedding, so, we had our house, we got, new flooring, some new windows, some real big upgrades to our house and everything. Christian, I'll be damned if we are now divorced and I don't even live in that house anymore.
Oh my God.
I can laugh about it now, but yeah, we had a big, beautiful house. We did some upgrades. We put a new fence on our backyard. We got new flooring. We got brand new big windows in the back of our house, and we don't even live there anymore. And we're not married.
Oh, wow. Easy come, easy go, huh?
It happens. It's a part of life, right?
Sure.
It's a story I can tell. It was, I don't know. I guess we can laugh about it now. It's been a few years, so yeah. So.
Yeah, and
And
I am sorry to laugh about it before you laughed about it, but I got
my
the
gosh.
feeling you were telling the story for some sort of comedic effect.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
not tell it unless I was fine with that. So no, not at all.
Sure. That's one of the things that I've learned a lot of commonalities among the people that love this kind of stuff and get on
Mhm.
game shows and, do the multiple contestant thing. And just people I think who love game shows in general. There is this incurable, beautiful positivity that they share. There is a way to uh, look at life with fresh eyes, with optimistic eyes, and to even look at failures, at not winning whatever amount of money, not getting on the show, and even things outside of the realm of game shows. That positivity is so powerful and it's so palpable among that group of people. And I feel like this is a great example of that. Game shows are such a good friend told me this once. Game shows are supposed to be fun.
Mhm.
There is no negativity in game shows. Even a win or even a loss rather when done correctly um is at the end uh uh a congratulatory moment, right?
Sure.
Even on
Yep.
Family Feud, when somebody gives a bad answer, everyone goes, "Oh," but then there's a little bit of applause at the end. It's okay.
Right.
You're not gonna
Right.
die. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing that in you telling me this story, that just that 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 positivity. Tell me what that has done for you in your life.
So, I know, listening to your show and the podcast, and people have mentioned the slot tournament in Vegas that we do, and that goes on. And
And that's among the Wheel of Fortune alumni, right? In
correct.
Vegas
Yeah,
every year.
it's Wheel of Fortune Alumni Invitational Slot Tournament. And in a nutshell, it's alums, people that have been on Wheel of Fortune. We open it up to them. We're actually doing it in Reno this year. But the past 2 years has been in Vegas. And you come out and we have these Wheel of Fortune slot machines that get turned into tournament mode. And we play a tournament and at the end give away prizes. The last 2 years we've given away cruises and Wheel of Fortune arcade games and free play. But what it is, it's the wheel community that comes. And there's the first year we had 80 people. The second year we had right at 100 alums coming from all over the country to play in this tournament. But what it really is, Christian, and I've heard that word on your podcast a lot, community, is that we all know each other through game shows. We all know each other um, on the internet. And what this is everyone coming together and meeting in person and hanging out in person and spreading that positivity and spreading that community. Like what Wheel of Fortune and these game shows I know never expected to do is form these friendships and community that they have. And that's that we call it the Wheel of Fortune Alumni Invitational Slot Tournament. That's what we're there for, but it's almost secondary to everybody coming together because as you can imagine, we all are completely different people. We come from different walks of life, different views, different this, whatever. None of that matters, Christian. We're there just to hang out because we share that commonality of being on game shows, being on Wheel of Fortune, and we all come together to celebrate that.
And I know that you've done a lot of work in connecting former Wheel of Fortune contestants not only with each other but with the show. Didn't you fill a section of the audience with Wheel of Fortune alumni? Was it for their 8,000th show?
Yes, that was right after one of our tournaments. I contacted Wheel and said, here's this idea I have. Pat's retiring. You guys announced Pat will be retiring. We would like to come. Then it started that I wanted to bring alumni and fill the entire audience for Pat's last show to say kind of a thank you. Like, we've all been on the show. We're all here. Like, here, your last hurrah. Here's a thank you from us, people you've actually impacted. And Wheel responded and said, we love the idea, but we're also filming show number 8,000. Why don't you guys come for show number 8,000? I said, whatever you want. You know what I mean? What am I going to say? No.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. That's negotiable, right?
So it started with, well, how many people can you bring? I said, we can fill your studio audience 3 times. I mean, the people it's no problem. They said, well, get 50 people to 100% confirm and give us their names and we'll go from there. 50 people came like that. They said, okay, how about 75? I said, okay. Then it was, all right, whoever wants to come can come. We just want their names and their contact information so we can make sure that they were on, they had to do their due diligence, make sure they were on the show, that they have already taped or their show is already aired, all that stuff. So yeah, so it ended up being 70, I think it was like 71 or 72 of us were in the studio audience for the week's worth of show number 8,000 up to show 8,000. And what was really cool is on Thursday was show number 8,000. The next day, Friday, none of us were allowed there because they were filming Pat's last show ever. So they film 5 shows a day, right? In Wheel of Fortune.
Right.
So we were there on Thursday and they filmed 5 shows. On Friday, they were filming more shows, but it was including Pat's last show ever. So we were there the day before Pat's last show was ever filmed.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, it was just really cool. It was a full circle thing. I mean, we all, had been watching Pat on the show for, 40 years, right? Some of us I'm not even 40 yet, but we have been watching. Pat was the only male host that a lot of us knew. Of course, there was Chuck Woolery, but for the most part, right, Pat was the guy. And to be there for show 8,000 and for him to also acknowledge us, Emil DeLeon made a book that we all wrote thank you letters, and he in their goodbye skit, their goodbye segment, on Thursday, he had the book in hand and said, we have 70, past Wheel of Fortune contestants. They all wrote me a thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know that
I saw that. I thought that was beautiful. Yeah.
I know that meant a lot to Emil because he went through a lot of work to get everybody's, pages together and put it in a leather bound book and he was able to give it to him. So, it was so cool. It was a lot of fun.
Oh my God. Such positivity.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best answer anyone's given to that question.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and when I talk about, and you're going to think, why are you talking about this? I'm going to bring it down and then we're going to bring it up for a second. So last year, the Wheel of Fortune, the slot tournament, we're in Vegas. It's July. My sister and brother-in-law always come because my sister was on Wheel with me and she's been through, she's been to these game shows with me, either on it or in the audience. So she always comes. Well, we are in Vegas last year for the slot tournament and we had an off day. So we're out roaming Vegas and we get a call that our dad passed away.
Oh my God.
100% unexpectedly. He wasn't sick. But yeah, he passed away. We had to get back home to St. Louis.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
I thank you. And I don't bring this up to bring it down. The reason I'm bringing that up is, that happened when we were in, we're in Vegas. We're there for the slot tournament. We're happy. We're in the happiest place of our lives right now. And then something like that happened to bring us down. Well, the day of the funeral, you walk in, it's sad. well, one of the first and biggest flower arrangements I look at and read, Chuck and my sister's name is Jenny. Chuck and Jenny, so sorry, blah, 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 blah. Love your Wheel of Fortune family. And I still don't know who sent it, where it came from, but those people that we've met, that we've made connections with, people from all over the country, because of a freaking game show, Christian, had the sense and wherewithal and love to send us flowers on the worst day of our life. And I think that, in a nutshell, is why we do what we do and why we bring everyone together, is because there's just so much love from around the world. People we may have never even met before, but there's just so much connection through game shows.
That's incredible. And you must, in the process of finding these former contestants, you must have learned, you must have identified some element of that in them as well, and just talking to them and organizing that. Yeah, um have you learned anything on your end about what those contestants have in common? Is there anything else that you kind of taken from that experience?
We all, I think we all, this is, gosh, this is going to sound so cliche, Christian. I think we all just want to get along. We all just want love. We all just want friends. We all want to have a commonality with each other. And when we all do get together, it's just fun. It's fun. It's enlightening. It's positive. Um, like I said, we come from all different walks of life, and I would be remiss not to mention Matt Gelazzo, because he was the guy who came up with the idea for the slot tournament, and we ran with it. We formed a committee and ran with his idea. So I'd be remiss not to mention him for actually getting the ball rolling on this tournament. But yeah, I mean, even when I got everybody together for show 8,000, like, some of them, it didn't hit me, because to me, Christian, it was just like, hey, I'm benefiting from this too. Like, this is super cool. Like, I am so happy to bring everyone together, but hey, I'm benefiting from this too. Like, this is just a cool thing. And I don't remember who it was, but someone said to me, like, because we were outside walking around behind Sony and taking pictures, and Wheel of Fortune really, they treated us so well, Christian. They treated us so awesome. They had lunch for us. They let us roam around the back lot and take pictures. And while we were doing that, I was kind of standing back, and someone said to me, like, "What's up, man? How you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing okay." They're like, "You did this." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Look at everybody. You did this." And I was like, that was the first time that I hadn't even thought about that, but it was one of those moments that someone said, like, "You did this, and look how happy everyone is." And everyone was just so happy and having a good time, and getting to come back to the show again. Some of these people, they were on in the 70s. Some of us were just on last year, and it's that range of people. You have people that are in their 80s, and you have people that are in their teens and early 20s, and we're all just hanging out. We don't care about that number of how old you are, where you come from. We're just all hanging out and having a good time. It's incredible. These people, yeah, I mean, everybody that we've met, everyone's just incredible, and we have such a good time when we all get together, whether it be 8,000, a slot tournament. Some of us, I know Alex Braun, he's from here in St. Louis. He's a good buddy of mine. He goes out to Wheel of Fortune and Price is Right tapings, and 3, 4, 5, 6 people that are alums that live out west will meet up with them. And it's just, everyone always, if anyone's out in California or anyone's out in the same area as another alum, they meet up, and then they post it in our Wheel of Fortune alum group. Like, "Hey, I met up with such and such today, and we had lunch because I was here for 2 hours." Like, everyone's just formed relationships and friendships from across the globe that we never would have had if it weren't for these shows. It's so weird to talk about, because someone that's not in, like, this community, they're like, "What are you talking about?" But it's
Well, no, I get
true.
it. And honestly, I've never been a sports guy at all, ever, to any degree. But I imagine, and I might have said this on other episodes, but I imagine that this is what it feels like to be a really like devoted sports fan. Do you know what I mean? Where all of a sudden, you have friends and loved ones and people around you that you share the love of a team or a sport with. Like that's the only thing I could compare it to.
Yes.
And this is even more. I think it's even more intimate because the company you're sharing is people who have gone through this experience. There are millions and billions of sports fans, but there are a very select few people who have ever had the experience to the degree in which somebody like you might have had it.
You're right. And another thing, we're all in. Yes, it's competitive getting on game shows, but we are all in each other's corners, and everyone gets so excited when somebody in our group gets on another show, or we've been to Price is Right tapings, and as you know, you don't know until they call your name in the studio audience if you're going to be on the show. So last time we went, there was a group of Christian, there was 25 of us from the Wheel alum group in the crowd, and if somebody from our group got called, I mean, everybody just freaked out, and we're all in each other's corners to, get on another show, whatever it is in life you're doing, we're just everyone's biggest fan. And it's just a cool thing.
Yeah, The Price is Right specifically is I think that is the perfect example of a show that embodies that power, that social power to make everyone friends with each other instantly. The people you're in the audience with, The Price. I've described it several times, but I'll never get tired of talking about it. And as a matter of fact, at some point, let's do a part 2 so we can just talk about The Price is Right in detail.
Yes.
That I always tell people, it was my first time being a contestant on a show, but it was the closest thing I think I've ever felt to a truly religious experience. Walking into the studio, seeing the set, touching it. I remember they were in the last few weeks of Bob Barker, which I was on in May. He retired in June of 2007. I remember walking and just being overcome by seeing the set and how small it was, because that's that's everyone's comment is, how small everything is compared to what it looks like on TV. And I remember climbing up the stairs to contestants row and just laying down on the set, and I felt like I was absorbing the energy from the stage into me. Like I felt it happen, because it wasn't just the energy of that show, it was the energy of all the shows that I grew up watching on Game Show Network that taped right on that floor. Yeah. It was unbelievable. It was a religious experience. That's the only way I can describe it.
It really is. And then especially on top of it is when your name gets called, or if your name gets called. I mean, like I said on, Pyramid and walking in the Wheel, it's just out of body. You have that hope, I think that's really cool is what Price does is the people, the 150 that are in the crowd or however many, you have that hope, oh my gosh, my name could be next. And then if your name does get called, which you can't hear. So if you see your name on a poster board, that feeling is just indescribable.
And for the people at home, did you make it on stage? Did you get called?
I got called. I was on this past June. We were there in April. I aired in June. Made it to contestants row. Did not make it up on stage.
But you got to hear "Come On Down." That's the dream.
I still got to come on down and run down and be on the show. And I still have the poster board that they had my name written on when they held it up. And so that was my first time at Price is Right. I know people that have been there 20, 30, 40 times have never been called. And my first time at Price is Right, I got called on down. So it was pretty amazing.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Tell Us About Yourself. Conversations with Game Show Contestants is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Christian Carrion, from my studio in beautiful downtown Lancaster City, Pennsylvania. Co-executive producer Cory Anotado. Researcher Chuck Donegan. This has been a production of BuzzerBlog, the most popular game show website in the world, in partnership with the National Archives of Game Show History at the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. For more information, visit museumofplay.org. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Christian Carrion. Good night. Tell Us About Yourself is sponsored by bonusround.ca, streaming Canada's classic game shows on demand. Dive into the golden age of television with thousands of episodes of Canadian series that defined an era from anywhere in the world, all for just $1.99 a month. From iconic shows like Let's Make a Deal and Definition to cult classics like Bumper Stumpers and The Mad Dash, bonusround.ca brings you timeless entertainment that's fun, enlightening, and affordable. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, relive the magic of Canadian television history. Subscribe now at bonusround.ca for $1.99, download the free Bonus Round app on iOS, Android, and Roku, and turn every night into Game Show Night. By Game Show Forensics. In a world where game show imperfections go unchecked, where judgment calls are questionable, and where clocks tick with unsynced inaccuracy, there is but one elite force to investigate it all. Armed with the latest in atomic electromagnetometer and gas chromatography mass spectrometry technology, Game Show Forensics is always on the case. Join Robert McKee and his elite squad of game show scientists as they dive headfirst into the most absurd depths possible at GameShowForensics.com. Adult discretion is advised. And by The Inn at Leola Village. Nestled in the heart of picturesque Pennsylvania, the Inn at Leola Village is a sanctuary of luxury and relaxation. Indulge in the timeless beauty of their historic suites, each meticulously designed to transport you to a bygone era of elegance and grace. Experience the culinary delights of their award-winning Italian restaurant, where every dish is a masterpiece crafted from the finest local ingredients. From romantic getaways to corporate retreats, the Inn at Leola Village offers a haven for every occasion. Unwind at the spa, stroll through the lush gardens, and let the stress of everyday life melt away. Make your reservation today at theinnatleolavillage.com or call the front desk at area code 717-656-7002. The Inn at Leola Village, an oasis of luxury.